day in and day out, we are dealing with human emotions. We are dealing with stressful situations. Right. We are dealing with people who are unhappy with how their career is moving forward. We are dealing with where, a manager and a team member are not getting along with each other. And right. These are stressful situations.
Now that we're talking about it, it seems extremely obvious, right? I mean, these are the folks that you want to have the highest EQ, the highest probably conflict resolution skills in the organization. And yes. They have to hold the tension.
And that blame is on people like me, who haven't played their part in setting those expectations. The whole emergence of the HR function, it was based on 3 principles, right? Volume, expertise, and objectivity or fairness. That objectivity, fairness angle hasn't gone anywhere.
Where do you think, and how do you think that transition happened, where we moved more from people partners to business partners?
So as much as you remain the flag bearer of business success, which you absolutely should, right? Do not lose the focus on people advocacy, doing the right thing for people.
Everybody, welcome back to Close the Loop. I'm really excited for today's episode. Loop itself is a YC-backed company, and really great to have the CHRO of Razorpay, who's leading one of India's first YC-backed companies that has really took scale. Razorpay's had an amazing impact, I think, on the Indian startup ecosystem, and we're really excited to have Chitbhanu, who's the CHRO of Razorpay, here today. Awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Pleasure. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
You've worked at a couple places that you could consider are really important to the Indian startup ecosystems. Could you actually walk through maybe your career journey?
Look, I've overall worked for about 25 years. A lot of foundational years in my career were with large MNCs like Accenture, Dell. And I think there's a fair bit of learning that I carried from there. But there was a deep yearning that I want to contribute to the ecosystem and build something ground up, where whatever good, bad, ugly I do, I can call it my own. So with that, jumped to the world of startups about, I think, 11, 12 years back. And I think it has been great fun ever since. I've worked with organizations like Your Story, which I think today is the torchbearer of the startup ecosystem or the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem. And it was such a pleasure over there contributing to org building along with Shraddha and understanding how that entire business works. And about 4.5 years back, joined the ship at Razorpay. Yeah. And it has been one of the most gratifying experiences for various reasons. The business has been really good. We've built an org from about 400 people when I came in to about 3,000 plus. We today have a presence across the entire value system of payments and digital banking. We today are the largest payments company in India. We have expanded our footprint outside of India. We've set shop in Singapore, Malaysia, and aspire to take it to multiple parts of the world. I think the excitement lies in the fact that that saying that world is your oyster seems to be true right now. And we think if we continue to get it right, and if we continue to serve our customers the right way, we really can take it and make it a much bigger and more valuable proposition than where it is now. Yeah. But the biggest gratification has come from the fact that 4.5 years back when I joined Razorpay, it was known as a company with very deep cultural roots. And I think we have kept that DNA intact. We have grown at a rapid pace. We have done 7 acquisitions in the last 5 years, but I can still put my hand on my heart and speak with a fair amount of confidence that we're still known to be that kind of a company, what we were 5 years back. Democratic, every voice carries its weight. People are encouraged to question the status quo. It's the merit and the outcomes based on which people's growth is determined, and a very good and a fair workplace overall.
Yeah, no, it seems like a strong core set of values and really high bar on talent also. Absolutely. Probably all throughout. No, I think so many questions I would love to ask. I think even just from what you said, I think what are the values of Razorpay? But I think for today's conversation, I think it'd be super interesting to hear about the kind of evolution of HR, I think, or people, right? I think, when we were prepping for this, I think you were talking about how in the 70s, it's more about statutory compliances and doing what we need to do, to today using AI to better understand our people and work with them. So yeah, we'd love to understand, I think, we'd love to hear you maybe walk through that meta story. Like, what do you think has been happening in this field?
So Ryan, I'm often fascinated when I think, what would have happened when someone really said for the first time, okay, let's have an HR function in a company, right? There would have been a time when there was no finance function, no engineering function, and obviously no HR function. And something happened because of which someone felt that there was value in investing in creating, a meaningfully large HR function. And I think it would date back probably to the era when industrialization happened, when really large factories, a lot of automation, large workforces started coming into play, and entrepreneurs and business leaders at that time would have felt that, look, number of people that work with me today have reached a certain size where I want someone to just focus on them because they are critical to my business's success. So it's first of all just the quantum of work that is making it apparent that you need someone to put dedicated focus on this. And then the complexities that come out of it. The early industrial era led to labor negotiations, compensation negotiations, keeping industrial peace within the organization. Then brought the value proposition of HR from an expertise standpoint, that you have someone who knows how to manage these things in a meaningful manner and protect the interests of the organization and the people. And I think the third principle, which I deeply care about, and I believe that must have been an equal driver to create the HR function, would have been, look, we really need someone who is an advocate of people, who evangelizes what is right for people as much as evangelizing what is right for the organization. So that whole sense of objectivity, fairness, someone who has no other reason to be objective than that, look, I want to do what is right for people and for the organization. And I think that's what would have led to the emergence of HR as a function of value within the organization. But I think every decade or so, trends within industry have changed, which have evolved how HR adds value to business. Early 90s, when the large tech firms started taking shape, we saw hundreds of thousands of people coming into play. Yeah. And I think HR started building the skill of how do we serve these hundreds and thousands of people. I remember years back in Accenture, when I was working there, there used to be a joke that we should put up a banner somewhere that trespassers will be recruited, right? And while that was said in a more fun way, but the truth is that at some point of time, HR professionals really started learning how to handle masses. So the whole pitch on automation, the whole pitch on the shared services model, etc., came true. And then very soon from there, the whole focus on profitability started coming up. So how can we do more with less? So optimization, managing workforce, recruitment at a certain cost, etc., became equally important. There were also times when there were conversations around higher maturity in the whole HR world. So concepts like people capability maturity model came into shape. And that, I think, really brought in a shift as to how we would look at how HR can add value to business. And of course, the latest two big trends have been, COVID led us to talk about future of work, and AI has really taught us that there is a need for a significant shift to see in how the future of HR can be driven with automation and with all the generative AI technologies that we have. Yeah. So what it teaches us is that every decade or so, the contours of our business will change. And as much as the business will have to shift its focus, the HR function will also have to shift its expertise, its outlook, so that it continues to be relevant and adds value. But what has not changed? So if you look at it, the need for expertise has changed, maybe from industrialization to handling volumes to optimization and now to technology-based interventions, right? Maybe handling scale is not as relevant now because scale can easily be managed if you have the right tools and systems. Right. You really don't need a large army of HR people to manage that. But the third point that I was talking about earlier, the whole point of objectivity, empathy, impartiality, and someone being a true advocate of that in the organization, if we really put our hand on the heart, two things will come out. That variable has not changed. Despite all the changes in the industry, there still is a need for someone to be truly empathetic, someone to truly be a flag bearer of, look, let's do the right thing for our people. So that stays relevant. Yeah. But unfortunately, lesser and lesser is being spoken about that. And that's one of the big hypotheses that is dear to my heart, is that amidst everything that is changing, something is staying constant. And we need to talk more about it, and we need to make renewed investments so that that continues to be relevant. And as a result of that, HR function continues to be relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think we'll definitely want to talk about this business partner versus people partner kind of transition and maybe the need which is unfulfilled. You talked about as things scaled, balancing cost, right? I think any HR roundtable that we end up hosting, or even discussions as a vendor, et cetera, I think cost is, it's definitely a part of it, right? People are an investment, and we have to decide how and in what to invest. And so what I see a lot of HR teams and leaders struggle with is, how do I maximize, say, employee well-being, investments and benefits, while balancing cost? And it could be across benefits or overall headcount, whatever it might be. So maybe if we can spend a little bit of time just understanding, in your experience, how have you managed that trade-off? Maybe if you can share a couple of examples of how you think about like balancing cost and making that investment also.
So a couple of thoughts on this. First of all, I really don't know if there is a trade-off in it. I rather think that these two things go together, right? Anything that you do, if you wear a business hat, you have to do it at the most optimal cost. But at the same time, it has to be something that makes sense for your organization and for your people. I think the biggest challenge lies when we believe that there is a trade-off, right? You have to have the best learning systems for your people, but that does not necessarily have to come with proportionate incremental costs, right? We fail to recognize that best trainers and best learning resources lie within the organization.
They're there, yeah.
Why? Because it is easy to go out, get a vendor, get an external tool, spend a fair amount of money and say, now let's get these people to train our people.
But building a training culture.
But what about building a deep training culture inside? What about asking your leaders that as much you are accountable to growing business, growing technology, growing commercials, you're equally accountable to standing in front of your people and sharing your leadership learning, your lessons, your journey in front of them. And I think organizations that have truly imbibed this have realized that it is possible to scale up learning through internal resources and internal capabilities. So cost doesn't have to be proportional. And therein lies the argument that there is no trade-off, right? Let me take another and maybe not so pleasant example. Bunch of us must have heard last few days, there has been, I may not remember the name, but there has been a talk about a startup founder who had to lay off people. But then the outlook that he took was that he took time to find jobs for every single team member before the actual layoff was done. I think here the important thing is your outlook on the trade-off short-term or long-term? If there's a short-term outlook, yes, the easy answer is lay off all your people. You have all the mathematics that any compensation person can give you, 2 months of salary for whatever, some metric, and pay your people and get off. But that's a very emotionless way of looking at it. And I think it's also not a prudent way of looking at it, because somewhere you're completely disregarding the value that a good work environment brings. Today, you deal with your people like this. Tomorrow, you are setting a precedent, which gets recorded, by the way, in people's heart, in their memories, that you are that kind of an organization. But today, you deal with this. Tomorrow, for times to come, you will be known for that kind of an organization. And the amount of goodness that it will bring in attracting the right talent, building the right culture, having that mutual faith within the team, I think that just cannot be substituted by anything else. I still remember in the peak of COVID, if I remember right, Ixigo was credited that their founder, Alok Bajpai, if I remember his name right, was one of those few founders who took the hard call that I will not lay off people. I will reduce compensation, I will not pay bonuses, but I won't let go of any people. And I think that has created so much of goodwill for that organization. And I think more and more organizations need to know that to win in the long run, you need to get your culture right. You need to have your outlook on people, to look at people, culture, and commercial success to go hand in hand rather than as trade-offs.
Right. The impact on brand, on existing team performance, and just like overall sense of well-being of the company.
Absolutely.
Right. I think that's...
And the fact that these are not just good things to speak about. These make absolute business sense in the long run.
Yeah. You're talking about this core need that hasn't changed, which is the need of people who work on teams to be heard, to be advocated for, to maybe overcome this power differential, right, that they may face with leadership. And that's the role of kind of people partners. Most organizations, it's called business partner. In an interview, many HRs will pride themselves to say, I'm there for the business, right? So it almost feels like there's a couple camps or a spectrum, and people maybe pin themselves in different places. But maybe if you can expand a little bit more on that, like how do you think that transition happened, where we moved more from people partners to business partners? And what do you think orgs can do now? What do you think is the outlook there?
I think at some point of time in the last 30, 40 years, the focus within HR shifted to creating very smart generalists. If I look at the HR professionals of the day, and I've had the opportunity to work with, interact, interview probably maybe more than 2,000-3,000 people in my career so far, and I've seen a trend that the current generation of HR professionals, they're certainly smarter, they're certainly a lot more aware, a lot more articulate. So I qualify, the current generation, and me included, as very smart generalists. And I think the world requires smart generalists who are good in problem solving, who are good in connecting the dots and really finding out what's the right solution. And I think there was also a time where a lot of focus came on do the right thing for the business. You are here to help the business succeed. And I'm not taking anything away from there. But I think that's just one side of the coin, or that's half of the story.
Yeah.
The other half, which is equally relevant or probably more, is you're also there as a people advocate. One of the reasons why you exist and why you are important for the organization, and I'm again here connecting the dots back to the whole emergence of the HR function. It was based on 3 principles, right? Volume, expertise, and objectivity or fairness. That objectivity, fairness angle hasn't gone anywhere. Yeah. So as much as you remain the flag bearer of business success, which you absolutely should, right? Do not lose the focus on people advocacy, doing the right thing for people, right? And I think because we haven't invested in that, we haven't helped people build the right skills, right tools, right techniques to go deep and make meaningful interventions. I think that muscle hasn't developed as much in the last couple of decades.
Yeah.
And I think second is, and that blame is on people like me, who haven't played their part in setting those expectations. I don't know how much do I talk to my team and tell them that, look, I want you to take strong stands when you believe that the right thing is not being done for people. And I don't want you to worry about your career. I'm standing there. And forget about me saying this. How much am I walking the talk? When tomorrow there is a difficult situation that we are facing, do I go with the conciliatory approach? Do I try to just diffuse the situation and let's move on? Or am I ready to put my own reputation or peace of mind at stake and say, no, this is a battle I will fight because this is not in sync with the principles with which I want to do my work.
Right.
I think unless me and leaders like me do that, walk the talk, create the right examples, that will never cascade down, and then that muscle will never grow because people will learn and imbibe what I demonstrate.
I mean, I think that's extremely humble of you to say that. For folks who feel the same way, like, is there a first step that teams can take? We have a pretty big HR audience who watches this. Like, is there something they can go back to the office on Monday next week and do to maybe encourage this objectivity and fairness and create psychological safety for the same? Anything we can kind of leave the audience with?
I think for me, the first thing that I recommend, and I speak about this with a lot of conviction to my team, is to have the belief and faith that this is the right thing to do, right? Maybe instinctually many of us believe it, but when the rubber hits the road, when we face tough situations, sometimes either because of lack of conviction or lack of confidence or lack of belief whether my organization will rally behind me or not, we end up taking a softer stance. The first change that I would really recommend would be to take strong stands. I mean, still be empathetic, still be within your professional boundaries, but take a firm stand. When you truly believe that something is being done which is not in line with the values and principles with which the organization has been formed. Someone has to take that stand, and that firm stand becomes the first step towards bringing in the change.
Yeah.
And I've seen this multiple number of times when HR professionals who take the right stand, who speak in favor of the employee when the situation arises. they end up getting respect from business. They may not be liked by the business, but the business will respect them. I've read in so many feedbacks that, look, day in and day out, I get into a lot of conflicts with this HR person.
Yeah.
I may not be the best of friends with this person, but I respect what he or she brings.
They're doing what they need to do.
I think that's the starting point. Second is, how much of skilling are we doing about it, right? We are doing today a lot of skilling, maybe on building analytical skills in HR, maybe a lot about building compensation competencies, labor law competencies. But I don't think even 10% of that is being done to build some of these capabilities around behavioral sciences. For example, how skilled are we today by way of training, not by way of innate abilities, but by way of training to facilitate a tough conversation, right? To arbitrate and help two people get together in a non-conflicting situation, right? To really coach and mentor people to take the right decisions, to influence people. These are not skills where we invest a lot of money to train and make people become better. People today are good at it either because of their innate ability or because we overall invest in their smart generalist problem solving abilities. And sometimes that just transcends, right? A smart problem solver will be a good facilitator as well. But are you picking up facilitation as one skill that needs disproportionate investment? And facilitation is just an example. But the day we start recognizing that these as core skills, invest in them, you will see HR professionals becoming stronger in them.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. I think rarely do I hear people talking about the need to develop soft skills in HR but now that we're talking about it, it seems extremely obvious, right? I mean, these are the folks that you want to have the highest EQ, the highest probably conflict resolution skills in the organization, and they have to hold the tension.
And what we don't realize, like, if you go into medical sciences, hospitals, over there, as much in the best of institutions, as much of investment that we make in building medical skills amongst doctors and support staff, equal investment is made in helping them handle stressful situations. Because they really day in and day out are seeing illness, extreme cases, death, accidents, blood around them. So a lot of investment has to be done in equipping them to handle this. But why don't we extend the same logic to HR, that day in and day out we are dealing with human emotions, we are dealing with stressful situations, we are dealing with people who are unhappy with how their career is moving forward, we are dealing with where a manager and a team member are not getting along with each other. And these are stressful situations, right? And we need to build enough resilience in HR professionals to help them not just manage the stress, but also be the advocates of resolving these things in an amicable manner. And that will only happen when we teach them the right techniques of doing so.
Yeah. I think a couple takeaways from this, for me at least, is that cost and benefit, or cost and impact to the organization is not a trade-off. I think that was one really great point. I think two is that we can all be people partners, and it starts on Monday by saying, is there something we can take a stand for today within our professional bounds? And three is maybe there's a new skill set that we've not been focusing on, whether it's me as a founder, you as a leader of a team, or our audience on HR teams. Maybe we should be talking a little bit more about how to equip ourselves to be better as that people partner, being objective and fair, working with business, but still advocating for the people that we work with. So no, I think that's super, super insightful. We could probably keep chatting for a long, long time, but I think this was a super great start to the conversation. Hopefully we can have another one sometime soon, but thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, and all the best to the team at Razorpay.
Thank you.